Ngā mihi nui and welcome to Our Changing World from Radio New Zealand National.
This week is Sea Week and the theme this year is Look Beneath the Surface. Papatai o roto, papatai o raro.
Well, that's easier said than done when it's a rather murky estuary. So shark researcher Warwick Lyon has developed a cunning tracking system which allows him to follow the small rig sharks he's studying in real time, even though he can't see them.
His bespoke system is a little different from the more conventional electronic tags used on larger sharks. And Alison joins him on the water in Pauatahanui Inlet, north of Wellington, to find out more.
This is a very nice commute out onto Pauatahanui Inlet.
It is. It's not a bad day at the office.
I have to say, I'm just starting, but you've actually been out here a while already, haven't you?
I have indeed.
So what have you already done today?
I've been out and I've set my set net in Pauatahanui Inlet in the hope of catching some rig sharks.
So you're not actually allowed to catch fish here using set nets for eating, but you're doing research, so that's okay.
Correct.
Now I gather you've already had a bit of bad news this morning.
Yes. A fisherman caught my shark.
Oh no. So this shark was carrying something rather important.
Yeah, it was towing sort of a GPS transmitter that tells me the location of the shark. And so that floats on the surface, and there's a nylon tether of about 6 metres down to the shark. So the shark swims along the sea floor, and that's where they like to be. And this float stays on the sea surface, and it was the tether between the two that the fisherman caught. And unfortunately, when I was trying to untangle it, it got away. It snapped the line, or it pulled its anchor free. I'm a bit unsure, but I got the tag back. But I would have liked to have seen where the shark had been going, because this was its second day that it had been tagged.
Wow, so where did you tag it and what had it been doing in the previous 2 days?
So I tagged it in the north, and it hung out there quite a while, and then it decided to head south. I went down and hung out in Browns Bay for a bit, and then it came over and hung underneath Seaview for probably a good half a day. And that's where it was this morning when it got caught. It's quite close to a fishing spot.
And it's not the first shark that fishermen have got?
Yes, a conscientious water skier saw the tag being towed around and thought it was caught around something, and so he cut it free, which was quite frustrating, but he was doing it for the right reason. She was a female, and I don't get many females, so it's a bit of a bummer there. But the track, she was hanging around to the north, and then her track went very quickly around the sandbank, down the main channel into the boat ramp, and along State Highway 1 and State Highway 58. So at some stage I realised that it wasn't my shark anymore.
Someone had stolen it.
A bit concerned for my shark. I thought it had ended up on a barbecue. But it didn't. She's still somewhere.
So what's the purpose of your study out here, Warwick?
Well, this part of it is just to find where they're going. The rig sharks use the estuary for sort of really spring and summer. And while they're here, I want to find out what parts of the estuary they use. And so slowly working that out. It's a bit different to what we initially thought. We initially thought that they'd use the shallows at, say, high tide to eat crabs, but they seem to like the main deep channels for some reason, and we don't know why.
So this research is building on some previous research that's been done here on rig?
Malcolm Francis did some work here 2 or 3 years ago, tracking a juvenile rig. Females use this as a spot to give birth, and they give birth to live young. They're about 25 centimetres long, and Malcolm put some little acoustic trackers in them, so we could find out where they went, but it's sort of where they go on a generalised scale. So they hang out in the south and go to the north overnight and then back down to the south for the day.
And that was focusing on the juveniles, whereas you were focusing on adults?
That's correct. So we're coming up on the left here. There's a waratah with something on the top of it.
Yes.
That's one of my routers. Because my tags don't talk to satellites, they do receive their GPS location from the GPS satellites, but they can't transmit that signal very far, so it only goes about, say, 300 metres from the tag itself. So I've put a bunch of sort of like repeaters throughout the estuary so that it can pick up that signal and pass it back to my coordinating computer up in Mana on the hill.
Okay, so you can then watch in real time where the shark's going?
Yeah.
Oh, how fantastic.
It's pretty cool like that. Not many tracking systems you can do that, and I mean that's just an advantage of my mate from Niwa, Peter Dejoux. He designed this system, and it's fantastic. If you build your own system, you can get it to do whatever you want to do.
So you've in effect tailor-made it for your study?
Absolutely. But of course, I mean, it can be used to track things like stingrays, eagle rays, other sharks that are in sort of confined areas.
And in reasonably shallow water, so that's the advantage here.
Yeah.
How deep does the estuary get?
Maybe about 6 or 7 metres back behind where Niue started, but maybe up to 11 in the channel by Mana, and it gets out to 20 metres by the marina. So I have to cater for that. So if they swim out, then I want the tag to remain on the surface for as long as possible so I can see it. So although my sharks only have a tether of 6 or 7 metres, they have an additional 15 metres of nylon that can pull out should the shark go into deeper water.
So you deploy these tags and then you have to get them back?
Yeah, the problem with tracking an animal is battery life. If you're using electronic tags, it's the major problem. So we're quite fortunate is that because we know the position immediately, you know, we have real-time knowledge of where the sharks are, I can access that, and so I can use my smartphone to find where the shark is at any time. And so you just use the Google Earth app on your phone and it takes you right to it, which I used this morning to find my shark before it was caught.
And so this is really the first spring, summer you've been deploying it?
No, last year as well. So I got some really good tracks of sharks during December. I was catching them in Browns Bay, close to Whitby, and they would swim around there, but then come up to this point up north of Seaview, this area here. It was just mind-boggling. So what on earth are you doing? There's no food there. All the girls had left. You know, there's not much else really that you're interested in. So it could be things like the salinity of the water, it could be water temperature, you know, it could be one of those abiotic factors that sends them out here. We just have to try and find out why. Once we know where they go and when they go there, then we can try and find out, you know, why they're doing that.
So why aren't you just using the same kind of commercial tags that you're using on the great white sharks? Why have you developed your own system?
It's a good question. We've had to develop our own system because a rig are quite small. You know, the biggest one would be 1.5 metres, but I've only really seen them in here up to about 1.5 metres. So I'm dealing with sharks that are sort of 80 to 1.10 metres, sort of around that size. That's really only maybe a couple of kilo to 2 or 3 kilograms. Compare that to a great white shark at maybe 300 to 700 kilograms. So any of the tags we put on great whites are just way too big. Also, because rig sharks are benthic, they swim on the sea floor. That's where they stay, and that's really why no one knows they're there, because they spend all their time there. Okay,
so show me one of your tags, which looks remarkably like a torch.
Looks very much like a torch. The housing is from an Eveready torch, nice and cheap.
So it's reasonably big, but is it pretty light? Can I have a hold of that?
Yeah, it's about 115 grams, I think.
Yeah, no, it's really light. So it floats upright?
It floats upright with an antenna. The housing's fantastic because the torch is made for batteries down the bottom, which sort of makes it a keel, which holds it up. And there's a GPS in the top, clear window so it can see through it nice and easily, and below that we have a little microprocessor which is doing all the smarts of the tag.
So it really needs to be out of the water. If it gets water on the top of it, it's not going to send a signal.
And yeah, that's the problem with GPS. It's fantastic, but it doesn't work underwater. So, you know, what we did was, you know, put the tag on the surface and have a tether down to where the shark is. So your accuracy within here is pretty good. Say 10 metres of accuracy.
You're not limited by battery life?
Yes, every time you get a position you're using battery power. So if you want to position every second or every half second, you know, you're going to go through batteries pretty quickly. And if your animal stays in a small area, it's, you know, you don't really need it. But of course, if I left it to every 5 minutes, you know, my tracks may not really show me. The shark might be doing quite a lot in that 5 minutes. I'm not getting. So at the moment I have a 30-second time interval. But of course that shortens the life of the tags. So after testing I get 3 days from these tags, and I get an additional day to come out here and find the sharks, find the tags and actually swap them for another tag. Because they're on a tether. You can tag forever. As long as the shark's within the harbour, you can track it. The only limit is when they leave the harbour.
So what's the longest period of time you have followed a shark for?
3 days would be the longest track, and the idea is to improve that so that they stay on for as long as the shark is in here. That's the goal. That's what I want to do.
So the plan now is we're going to go and have a look at your net and hopefully find a rig.
Yeah, we're just about to go over to our net, and it's been in the water for a couple of hours, and hopefully we'll have some rig in there, and they'll be big enough to attach a tag to, and we can track them. Fingers crossed. There might be something in there. So what I'm pulling in here is 4-inch nylon filament net. Oh, and that looks like a yellow-bellied flounder.
Gonna put that back.
Yep, after I measure it.
Flop it onto the measuring board.
Yeah. So yeah, that's 39 centimetres long. That's a good yellow-belly flounder. And back in. It's a rig shark.
What a beautiful wee shark. It's a beautiful spotty wee thing. So they used to be called spotted dogfish, am I right?
Yes. And also known as spotted smooth hound.
And sold as lemon fish.
Sold as lemon fish.
They're kind of goldy, those spots. Is this what the Australians call gummy sharks?
Yes, it is. Gummy shark. I don't know why they call it gummy sharks, but it might be that their teeth, they don't have teeth. They have more grinding plates than sharp, nasty teeth like other sharks do. If you're studying a shark, this is one that's not going to bite your leg off.
Just might gnaw it.
Yeah.
So you're popping it on the measuring board.
And 63 centimetres.
So that's a bit small for your system, huh?
Yep, it is a bit small. So I'm just going to put a numbered tag in him and put him back. Now these guys can't bite you, but their skin, of course, they have dermal denticles which scratch like sandpaper. So I often come home with scratches on my knees and thighs from these guys. I do get attacked by sharks, but it's not too bad.
Just a good rasping.
Yeah, a good rasping. Or a gumming.
So you're just going to let it swim off.
Here he goes. Gently swimming.
Now, 63 centimetres, you said it was too small for a tag. So have you actually worked out what's the minimum size rig you can put a tag on?
Yeah, I want it to behave naturally. So we did some tests looking at their ability, how much they can pull. At 80 centimetres long, it's 5% extra effort for them to drag the tag around. The analogy I use is if you usually walk to the supermarket to get your food every day, but all of a sudden it's 2% harder because someone's got a tracking tag on you, you're still going to go to the supermarket. And if it was 5% harder for you to go to the supermarket, you'd probably still walk to the supermarket. But if that tracking tag was, say, making it 10% harder to walk to the supermarket, you'd probably stop at the dairy on the corner instead. But I want to get that normal behaviour, so that's why it was important to have such a low level of influence.
So how many tracks are you aiming to get?
I'm aiming to get hopefully about sort of 20 odd tracks for each kind of size grouping, but females aren't very common. The one female I did have, that was the one where the was kidnapped. It'll be tricky getting those numbers, but we're getting there. Okay, and this is just measuring a kahawai that we've caught in the net. And that's 43 centimetres.
So no more rig.
But that's why they call it fishing, otherwise it'll be catching. That's what I keep telling myself.
You going to set again?
I will, yes, because there's clearly sharks around. Just hopefully there's a bigger one.
That was shark researcher Warwick Lyon from Niwa and the University of Auckland. And there are plenty of marine-themed activities taking place around the country during Sea Week. You'll find the link to their website listing all the events on our webpage, radionz.co.nz/Our Changing World.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, you can find more stories on our webpage, radionz.co.nz/Our Changing World. Ka kite anō.